Right. So today we will be talking about the an incoming buyer call and what we will need to do, how we will need to respond, some of the main questions that we're going to need to ask, and just ultimately to craft a script that we can use. And just make sure that as and when we deal with buyers and incoming inquiries, we've got everything checked, and we ask all of the right questions in a good manner that's clean, friendly, professional, and make sure that we get everything that we need. Yeah.
Yeah, it is very important to qualify and quantify those calls because you don't want to be wasting your time on somebody who's telling you that they've already put an offer in another property and they tell you, oh, we may pull out of it. It kind of shows that they may be a bit serious, but at the same time, they're very, very flexible in the sense that they could also do the same thing to you. So, or you could have people call in, they're very interested and they haven't really realized that it does take a lot of time and the costs are not exactly what they've planned.
Yeah.
And for a lot of them, maybe they may not have any agreements with the bank, with the lenders. They wouldn't be able to fulfill certain criteria in order to be able to be eligible to get mortgages.
Yeah.
So it's a very important step that you're taking.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the first few interactions that you'll have with a caller. So it's very important to know exactly who you're dealing with. And also it's a very good chance for you to introduce yourself and to show what you do and how you work, what sort of rules that you have for buying property through your company.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. Everything that you touched on is bang on. Ultimately, the aim of having a good first phone call is to ensure that we qualify these guys properly. We're not wasting our time, and ultimately to see if they're right for the property and the property is right for them. So without further ado, let's get into the script of it. So I think one of the most important questions that we're always going to need to ask and ascertain is, when somebody calls in, whether that's via an email lead coming in, Zoopla, Rightmove, or whether it's someone directly calling in, or whether that's you calling them as a result of their inquiry, is just to understand the situation. So first and foremost, like, what's your situation? What's your current situation? Are you renting? Do you own a property? How long have you been looking for a property? So I think all of that would fit into sort of motivation, like you said. So what's your current situation? Are you renting? Are you living in your own property right now? Why are you looking to move? Like, what's the reason? What's the reason that you've inquired about this particular type of property? So, a response may be along the lines of, look, I know the area very, very well, etc., etc. But I think a key factor, something to understand, is sort of how long they've been looking for. Because the longer that they've been looking for, it indicates a couple of things, and not all of them are good. One of them could be, or is, uncertainty. So the fact that they've been looking for 6 months, 12 months, or anything up to 12 months, it's like, it's a bit flaky, especially for a homeowner.
On the flip side of it, it could also mean that they're very particular. So they're looking for very particular property, and only a few of those are ever listed on sale. Therefore, they might have gone to those openings, and then they have made offers and not accepted. So we could have both ends of the spectrum. So we need to qualify which type it is. And then ideally, we want to find someone kind of in the middle, someone who has been looking for a property, but not for a very long time. Someone who's flexible with the type of properties they're looking for. However, not just going to see any property, because they could end up being a waste of time for us. So it would be ideal to find a middle ground.
I fully agree with you. That's a great point. Somebody who has been looking for a year, yes, in one way it shows uncertainty, but like you said, on the flip side, it can show certainty.
Yeah.
It can actually show certainty because they're very specific on what they want, and it makes your job easier because it's either yes or no, whether what they want you can provide or you can't provide.
Exactly.
So it's great because it does help you drill down to that question. And look, another question is, so why this property? What's the reason you've inquired? What do you like about the property? And again, some of the answers that you'll typically get could be along the lines of, oh, I just saw it online, it's in the area, and I just inquired. And the reason we ask this question is to really get an understanding of how deep they've looked into that particular property. So if they've looked into that property and they're like, oh yeah, I like this room, or I like the fact that it's got a balcony, or I like the fact that it's located XYZ, then that just shows to us that they've actually looked into the property. Or as we've come across a few times, it's like, oh yeah, I've been past the block, I know the block very well. That's a great thing. Thing because they already know the block, they know the area, they know
they're very familiar. All they really need in that case to be convinced to buy the property is just the property, because the surrounding is exactly what they want, because they know the area. Mm-hmm. So as long as the property fits in with their budget as well as the expectations inside the property, then it's a much easier way to sell. There are many motivations for people. So we had, for example, I spoke to someone, a prospect buyer yesterday. It was a lady. She wanted to buy a 5-bedroom house for her and her boyfriend. And I pressed her and I asked her, why do you need the 5 bedrooms for 2 people? Yeah. Then she opened up a little bit, saying that she will have her sister coming over. First, before that, she said she would like to rent the other rooms. And then her sister will move in with them, her and her boyfriend. And then they're hoping to try for babies, and then obviously grow a family there. So you can get an idea of what people want just by asking them simple questions, and the motivation. So you can also use that. What can you use that for?
No, I agree. I think the whole purpose of it is to find their real motivation, and all of these questions can lead to that, because oftentimes most people will not be comfortable disclosing to anybody the first person that's just rang them over the phone, they'll not be comfortable disclosing the real reason that they want this place, and often it takes a few questions that are not personal, but probing questions, in order to get the real reason why they're looking to move. And like you said, in that case, it was, we found out that they wanted to buy the property in order to move in with their family and then rent out a couple of their rooms. And then in the future, when they have their own family, they've got enough space there, they don't have to move again, which, really cuts to the chase. But yeah, aside from motivation, what's important is also finances. We want to determine how far along the process, the buying process, they are. So, I think the most important thing is to find out if they have the funding in place. So if they have the mortgage on principal, if they have the deposit ready, if they've already, identified a lender who they're going to be working with. Again, mortgages in principle don't necessarily mean too much, because obviously even once the mortgage in principle has been issued, they still have to do a survey. The official mortgage or formal mortgage offer still has to be given to them. But it's great at this point to find out sort of what they do for work, what their salaries are, who's going on the mortgage. So if it's more than just one person, who the other person is, what's the combined salary. And I think it's very, very important at this stage to not be too shy to ask these questions. Yes, they are personal, but at the end of the day, you're asking for the purposes of qualification, like we touched on. So asking for the purposes of qualification just basically means that these applicants, these buyers are not scared to answer your question. It's not going to be something that's going to be used against them. In fact, it's something that we're trying to do to make sure, again, that get to the basics of the fact that we want to see if the property is suitable for them and if they're suitable for the property. Anything to add?
Another question that you could ask as well is how much is in their bank balance? That would show you how much they would be ready to pay for the deposit in case they actually go ahead with the offer, because the actual agreements might take a while. So they do need to put a deposit. They do need to show that they have the required deposit to buy a certain house before they can agree on buying the house, before they can put in an offer, right? After they put in an offer. After they put in an offer, they will have to show how much is in the bank in order to ascertain that they have enough
loan to value.
Correct. So it's a very important step. It's something that was very shy at the beginning, but now I'm more comfortable asking. In the UK, asking the salaries and asking personal questions like that is usually a very big no-no. But this is only for the benefit of both us as well as the prospect buyers.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And like loan to value, it's very important to know, because it's not just loan to value that they have to figure in. They have to figure in a lot more, because ultimately, if they're buying a property that's valued at 500,000, they might have 25% deposit. But what about stamp duty? What about additional costs, removal costs, surveyors, etc., etc., etc.? That could easily come up to another 4% on top of the purchase price, which, on a 500K purchase, it'll be 25K. So,
substantial amount.
Yeah, it's a fair.
There are many fees that are involved. It's always a good idea to make sure that you know all the fees that are involved as much as you can, especially the big ones will be out there. You can easily find it, just Googling online. But it is very important because you have solicitors fees, you have document fees, to get just have surveyors, and there's many other fees that need to be involved.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not just the asking price or the price that you offer, the offer that you made. That's not the only cost. So on to the next point. Also important to find out if they have any preferences. So maybe they would like a house that's south facing. Maybe they would like a house that's easy, within reach of a commute, so bus, train, or maybe close to a school if it's families, or maybe close to a park. So asking those questions will also help you know about the buyers, because this property may not be the one that they'll get. But if you know what they're looking for, these are information that you can reuse for later properties that you may have on sale. As well as asking for their preferences, you also need to ask them for deal breakers. So do they not want to live in a flat that's an estate? Maybe they don't want to live in an area that has poor school rating, or maybe they don't care, maybe they don't have kids, but for some it will matter. Maybe they don't really mind whether they're far away from public transport because they have their cars or they cycle to work, but for others it would be completely different. So these are all questions that you will need to ask. Hopefully the buyer, before calling in, will have made a lot of, would have researched on the property and the amenities available in and around the area. But it's always good for you to know what their preferences are. Do you agree?
No, 100%, fully agree. And again, it just goes back to the same thing. We want to get back to the seriousness of the buyer and what they're really looking for. So, if they're looking for a swimming pool in an apartment, and that is something that they're not going to compromise on, and you don't have that, 9 out of 10 times the viewing and moving forward is almost pointless, and again, it's just a case of digging down into the basics of all the real motivations behind everything. And yeah, that leads us on to the last thing, really, which is just the seriousness. So we need to ascertain whether or not they've been on viewing. How many viewings they've been on over the past however long they've been looking. If they've put offers in, that's quite important to know. If we know that they've put offers in, and we know that they've had offers accepted and it's fallen through for X, Y, Z, that gives us an idea. That's something that we need to figure out as to why their offers were rejected or why it didn't complete. What was the reason? Are they the type of buyer that has a change of heart if they see a better property on the market, or did the previous fallouts happen as a result of things that were out of their control? These are
maybe they were outbidded.
Yeah.
So they put in an offer, asking price, seemed everything was going fine, and then last minute, somebody else came in and they just gave a higher offer. So it's possible that they have the right intentions and they're really motivated, and sometimes it just hasn't worked out for them for X, Y, Z reason. But those are questions that you need to know. Answers you need to know.
I think that pretty much sums up what we're looking for in terms of opening call or buyer call. Is there anything else that you feel that's been missed? Anything else that you'd add?
No.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've got the basic things there. I think actually one thing I do want to add is, obviously with us, we don't rush to view. Right. We don't rush to view. So what I mean by that is, like, where we're working on the basis of an open house, or we have set times and dates for the viewing. What we don't do is allow for somebody who wants to view before that access. Right. And obviously the reason for that is because we want to generate interest, we want to build up interest across the board, and be in a position where we've got 5, 6, 7, 8 buyers, maybe more, and all of them coming in, so that firstly we've got all of our interested parties there at the same time viewing. Secondly, we don't cause too much disruption to our tenants / vendors. And thirdly, we're able to make efficient use of our time. So it's great to do that. And also, if somebody can't wait to see the property, and it's something that they back off, or they lose interest if they can't view it today or tomorrow, how serious were they really?
Yeah. That's very true. They will get a chance, however, to see the property after the open house, if they're still very interested, and say the offers that we received for that property haven't been accepted by the vendor. However, in most cases, we will know how serious somebody is, because they will do everything they can to come and see the property on the day when everyone else is coming.
Yeah, I agree. I think that pretty much rounds it up, really. I think we've covered all the bases in regards to how to handle the initial interaction with a potential buyer, there's always things that can be added and taken away, but a few last points before we end this video is obviously, firstly, to not come across like you're a robot. We want to make sure that we can build some kind of rapport with the people that are calling in. So, see if you, whatever it may be, in any way, shape or form, look to try and build a connection. Number two, it doesn't have to be so robotic. So, take your time. It's not necessarily rushed. You don't have to feel like you have to rush them off the phone. They should definitely not feel like that. It needs to be a relaxed, professional process. And ultimately, they need to know that the purpose of the call, or they need to know the purpose of the call from the outset of the call. So what I mean is, like, the reason for my call today is XYZ. I'm going to ask you qualification question. I think we should have put this at the beginning of the video.
So we're just gonna edit it and put it at the beginning.
Yeah, but I think the purpose for my call is XYZ. I just want to make sure that the property is right for you, that you're right for the property, and we'd like to get you booked in. Also, I think it's probably best to stay at the beginning of the call when the open house is. Or when the viewing times are, just to let you know, viewing times are XYZ. So again, if they want to, 20 minutes later, if they want to ask the question, they're fully, that's a question that they're not answering there and then, or having to answer there and then. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything.
Perfect.
Yeah, lovely. All right, thank you.